And welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Justin Wells. With me, as always, is managing publisher at Inside Texas, Eric Nalin. We got another practice report. We got more practice to talk about, Eric. But first, please like this video and subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. We're climbing towards 10,000 subs. Get us there. Help us get to that path. Also, visit us at InsideTexas.com for the very latest in practice reports, recruiting updates, and everything that is good in Texas Longhorn football. Eric, man, they put on a few more pads on Friday, but not complete. It's not complete yet, not since last night. And so, actually, let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing at the quarterback position. Let's just start with the fun stuff. Sark is starting to see Quinn Ewers start to grow a little bit. You talked about this in your practice report on Saturday morning. Tell us exactly kind of what you're hearing.
Yeah, this practice report was largely based on Friday night, but also some elements of the first two practices. Just we're always tracking these themes that develop. Themes that carry into August usually carry into September. And so if you start hearing good things about Ewers and his growth, you're going to start seeing it on the field in September as well. And yeah, right now, I think it's fair to say that Sark likes what he sees with this third-year quarterback. Sark has been very vocal at times, praising him for making the right reads. They're definitely challenging Quinn with a lot of disguises in the secondary, and so far he's responding quite well. We've all expected him to continue growing and become an elite passer this year. If he keeps making reads like this, and again, Sark gets on these guys hard when they mess up, but he's really in their favor when they do things right. He's kind of coaches hard, but he praises them when they do the right things. And he's been very vocal about Ewers. Bystanders, I've had a few bystanders say Sark really likes what he sees with Quinn.
And you said it. Sark is – people don't realize how strict he is with quarterback play. He is hard on these guys for a reason. He does not let up. And the fact that you're seeing – Ewers take on a little bit more of that and gain that trust. That's big time for the head football coach at Texas. We go the other side of the ball. We get more defensive tackle questions than probably anything right now.
whether recruiting or on the field, it's defensive tackles all the time. I love talking defense.
Yeah. People have bought into the SEC moniker. You got to be big on those lines. And listen, we saw Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole. Listen, one's pretty big. The other one's moderately big. What is the defensive tackle room? We're hearing there's some improvement there. We're hearing a little bit more with run fits. Kind of talk about the D tackles for our fans.
Yeah, well, the additions of Norton and Lole were pretty big, but we're hearing that just in general, the room across the board is doing a lot better job of playing their run fits. And there were a couple practices last year where it was downright bad. People are like, do you ever cover the bad stuff? We cover the bad stuff when there's bad stuff. And we covered the poor run fits after a few practices in the spring. So far, so good on that front. Obviously, it's just stud tempo. They're not tackling, so it's hard to know whether or not they're actually getting stops at the line of scrimmage or just if it's stud. But we like what we're seeing from Broughton. Of course, I'm incredibly biased, unfortunately, on that one. But I do think he's going to have a breakout. Alfred Collins, everybody's very high on Alfred Collins, top 5 player on the team right now, according to a couple sources. And then the additions of Norton and Lole, in addition to Tia Savea in January, has that room looking a lot better. Now, let's enjoy it while we can. They've got 5 seniors. They're going to lose some of these guys. They're going to lose most of these guys after the year, but let's enjoy it while we can. I don't think there should be nearly as much concern about defensive tackle as there is, especially if we keep hearing about improvement throughout August.
In a Sark offense, it's quarterback, it's running back, it's wide receiver, it's O-line. Sometimes tight end gets lost in the weeds a little bit. And when you lose it, Jatavian Sanders, you tend to think that there could be a hole there in that room. After the first few practices that we got to watch, there's some guys there, notably Jordan Washington, Juan Davis. There's some dudes to go along with your Gunnar Helm and your Mari Niblack. There's a growing belief now in this tight end room. There's some guys that are starting to separate a little bit. What's the latest you're hearing about on the room that we just don't talk about that much on the offense?
Yeah, it's not as sexy without Jatavian there, I guess. But, tight ends are incredibly important for schematic diversity. They really take advantage of run-pass conflict. Obviously, you saw how many times because of having Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy last year, Jatavian Sanders was running right down the middle of the field. What was the joke? He looked like Forrest Gump running down the road through Alabama playing in Tuscaloosa. He was wide open. So there's just a lot of different ways that Sark could take advantage of the tight end room, whether it's an extra blocker, having two tight ends out there, taking advantage of the big defensive personnel with an athletic tight end like Amari Niblack. These guys are all looking good. It's funny, Justin, as much as you and I like Jordan Washington are impressed, he wasn't mentioned. It was mentioned Gunner, Amari, and Juan Davis as like three guys that are all good and ready to go right now. Jordan's certainly going to get there. He's got the most upside out of anybody in that room, I believe. But being a true freshman has him a little bit behind the curve. But tight end's not a question mark. It's just might not be as exciting as it was last year having Jatavian. However, I think the tight end room is going to be better overall this year than it was last year.
You know who else isn't a question mark? Andre the Lawyer. Give that man a call. This video is brought to you by the man, Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust a team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury cases, from car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Do not let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. That's what Andre's for. No question marks. 214-444-8808. He is principal offices in Dallas, but he helps Texans throughout the state. Don't hesitate. Give the man a call. If you're in trouble, Andre the Lawyer is the guy you need. 214-444-8808. Eric, every time I talk to somebody about the wide receiver room in the last 4 days, I hear a different name from a different person. And for some reason, I'm trying to figure this out, but this rotation is going to be deeper than I think we might even have anticipated. Man, what are you hearing in that wide receiver room and the talent that goes around? And unfortunately, there's only one football to go around in that room.
Yeah, I wish they had two. Then they'd get Arch out there, right? I mean, it would be really good. Man, I hear the same thing, Justin. It's, Silas Bolden, we hear about every practice, it seems like. Yes. And then somebody goes Isaiah Bond, and then, you know what? Who else looked really good is DeAndre Moore. And then it's just, and Ryan Wingo's a mainstay. We're always hearing about Ryan Wingo. I don't know how it's all going to work out. And then you got running backs to feed, two running backs to feed, not just one running back to feed. So I don't know how it's all going to work out, but it's going to work out because there's just too much talent for it not to. But yeah, Bolden, Bond, hearing Golden's playing in the slot more than I think anybody else. I've got him penciled in as a likely starter. But DeAndre Moore, who has also played slot in the spring, is playing a little bit outside as well. All these guys can play inside or outside, with the exception of maybe Wingo, who typically stays outside. But and he can do whatever he wants, really. But yeah, same thing, man. Every practice is going to be a different name. I think we haven't really caught up with sources yet, but I think you said Bolden had a big play last night. Yeah. That guy has been a revelation since the second he stepped on campus, and I can't tell you how many times when you start hearing about a guy very early in his time on campus that he ends up becoming a star. We had that with Byron Murphy. We had that with Xavier. We had it with Adonai last year, and we're having it with Silas. And we already know Bond is a stud. Golden is pretty proven. Jonte Cook is always impressed in his limited minutes. He's probably one of the YouTube's favorite players. So I mean, it's just loaded. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. They're going to have a different. Like, somebody asked me who's going to start at Colorado State. I was like, I guarantee you a backup probably leads the team in receiving yards, just because the backups probably play more than the starters in that game. It's just too much talent across the board. A lot of NFL players there.
Yeah, and it's funny because we'll hear about two or three guys, and then it'll always pivot to, well, what about the other two or three? Well, you didn't mention Jonte. Or you didn't mention Parker Livingstone. What he's looking, it's funny, but still, that's a good problem to have when there's so many guys to keep up with. I know on the defensive side, they're putting a lot on Trey Moore's shoulders. This guy is, again, we talked him up in the spring, but I feel like this guy may not be getting his just dues. Like, Trey Moore is really important for this defense, and you're hearing more and more why he's so important and why you're hearing him staying on the field.
Yeah, last week I wrote a pretty long article about all the options that they have at Sam linebacker. Sam linebacker is the linebacker that's on the field. He replaces the nickel when they're in base defense. So the nickel comes off, which would be Gilbo. At least right now, it seems like Gilbo's playing there more than Barron, maybe. But Trey Moore is your Sam linebacker, and that's Jet Bush played it last year. Jet Bush actually played it pretty well, capably, I would say. Physical player. I think he had 2 picks last season. But Moore brings a whole different element of an athlete. Way more twitchy, way more explosive off the edge. Just a better pass rusher. Jet did good last year. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice that. But Trey has a chance to really break out, but he's not even going to come off the field all that much unless it's just for a normal rotation, because he's also the buck outside, boundary side edge, outside linebacker. He's starting there. I think Justice Finkley's backing him up, but Justice is going to have a lot of work to hold off Colin Simmons and Colton Vosick. But right now, that's Trey Moore's position, and Sam's Trey Moore's position as well. But having Trey at Sam is going to allow them to probably bring on Colin Simmons as well, or Colton Vosick, or they've got a lot of different options they can do with Trey Moore. But he's going to be a mainstay at a fixture on this team, and there's a lot of talk that he might be gone after this season.
And we know from the recruiting side, no offers, no stars for the longest for this kid from New Brunswick, and boom, it hits, and Smithson Valley rather, and it hits. And I mean, Trey Moore is a great story on and off the field. When after the first two practices, the first thing you and I both say to each other is, "There's a lot of depth here." Like I feel like we're overselling it, but then we talk to guys within the program, and it's like, okay, maybe this is real. This is 1 deep, 2 deep, 3 deep. How has the depth and the flexibility kind of been portrayed to you after the first few practices?
Yeah, I mean, if you just go back to the last segment we talked about, Colton Vosick was probably the 4th buck outside linebacker, and he's got as much upside at that position as anybody. Probably more NFL upside than Trey Moore at the position. I won't say he's more talented than Colin Simmons, but it's closer than people think. So, and that's your 4th guy. So depth competition across the board is insane. There's competition between first and third teams. You've got everybody's trying to fight to get on that second team at minimum because of how much Texas rotates. There's a big difference between being third team and second team at Texas. Look at the safety room for an example. Corner is probably another example this season. So there's just a lot of competition across the board. There's a lot of talent. And there's guys that are third team right now that are just as talented as the first teamers. They just don't have the experience. Kobe Black is one to watch. Might be tough for him to get on the field this year. You got a couple boundary cornerback options. However, he was one of the first names that was mentioned to me as a guy that's really improving, somebody that they feel like they can count on this year. And he's just a true freshman, probably third string. I don't know if it's for sure third string. It depends on how they consider Jadae Barron. But you got guys all over the place that are ready to play. They just have talented players in front of them with a lot more experience, and they're going to have to scratch and claw. But that's what August is for. Keep chipping away at it, and we'll see who keeps moving up.
I know who else chips away at it? InsideTexas.com. Come see us, man. We really do have so much fun. 2024 is going to be a blast. It already is. We had a fun spring. Summer was a roller coaster, and now we're in the August. We're in the heat. It's stupid hot outside, but it's really cool at InsideTexas.com. Come visit us for the best practice reports and recruiting updates. Also, please like this video. Subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. We keep climbing. We need that help to get us to 10K. Be that guy to help us out. And thank you again for joining us on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.